Honda must have been quaking in its boots when it decided to release this bike. To try and succeed the old XRV 750 Africa Twin is no mean feat, but here's the new bike, and first appearances, it looks awesome. Obviously bikes like this are meant for off-road, but I'm going to take a bit of a punt and say that most owners are probably only going to use it for commuting and the occasional trip abroad. So for their sake, there aren't going to be any sand dunes in this review, which is also good news for anyone who's ever seen me ride off-road. We recently flew out to Spain to test the new Street Twin and Speed Triple, and Triumph deliberately kept stum about the specs of those new machines because they didn't want any of the journalists going in with any negative preconceptions before they rode them. And I can sort of understand why they've done that. Barely anyone's ridden the new Africa Twin on the road in the UK, but they've seen the specs. 94 horsepower and over 230 kilos, depending on which extras you opt for. It's left some people a bit disappointed, so we're going to head out on the road now to see if those numbers actually mean anything. So I've been out on the new Africa Twin now for about 2 hours. It's pretty damn cold, about 2 degrees. Icy everywhere. You can probably see the mist coming out from my helmet. Now, Honda always goes on about mass centralisation. They did it alone with their Fireblade. And I sort of understand now what they mean by it, having ridden the Africa Twin, because it is so well balanced. It's just where you look, where you want to go, that bike goes. Now we've got a few more hours. I'm hoping it's going to warm up soon, just to kind of give it a bit more oomph. But first impressions of the bike are really good. The original Africa Twin was powered by a V-twin, which is a superb engine if you want character, a great noise and punchy power delivery, but it's really difficult to make them compact because of that splayed out V-shape. Honda wanted to make this bike something really special off-road, so it needed to be a small package. So they opted for a more compact parallel twin with a 270-degree crank. And that crank is really important because it's able to imitate the power delivery and the noise of the V-twin. People overly concerned about that 94 horsepower power figure really shouldn't be. On the road it feels fast, it's got an exciting way of putting its power down, and Honda somehow managed to squeeze a really impressive exhaust note from that stock exhaust. That's a proper noise. Another benefit of that power figure, it means that it's restrictable for A2 license holders too, so perfect for that budding adventure rider. We've been out on this bike for a couple of days, and I'd say what stood out to me the most is the way that it steers. Honda's done an amazing job of hiding the fact that it's got a 21-inch front wheel in the riding experience. Usually big wheels like that, they slow down handling, but this thing is quick steering, and I'd go as far as saying probably the most nimble adventure bike on the market. Over our time with the Twin, it proved itself as a user-friendly, comfortable road bike, but you can still feel that off-road heritage really poking through, from things like the spoke wheels to the massive ground clearance. And when you stood up on the bike, the gear shift is in a really natural position. It's even got a CRF model name straight from Honda's dirt bike range, so you know they mean business. A big issue people have with adventure bike tends to be the height. Because of the big wheels, the tall suspension and the ground clearance, they usually sit a long way off the ground. Now, the stock seat height on this is 870 mils. You can drop it down to 850 mils, but there's also a tall and a low seat height option available too. If I'm honest, I think a lot of people who have a go on this bike will find it surprising just how manageable it is. A few things that I wasn't too keen on. The screen on this bike is non-adjustable, so if you want something a bit bigger, you have to buy it as an extra. Now, the bike we rode was actually fitted with a taller screen already, and I found it a bit annoying, to be honest. It sat right across my eye line, and it also made my helmet buffer. Secondly, the heater grips, great, they come as standard, but we rode them in 2 and 7 degree weather, and on max setting, they weren't actually that hot, and they didn't really keep my hands warm. Thirdly, there's no cruise control on this bike, and there's also no option for cruise control, which on a bike like this, I think is a bit of a missed feature. There are 2 versions of this Africa Twin for sale, a conventional manual base model for £10,500, and then another one fitted with Honda's dual clutch transmission, which lets you ride the bike like an automatic, but has various riding modes, which basically dictate how long the system holds onto a gear forward, depending on how sporty you want the bike to feel, and that system costs another £800. The standard Africa Twin without that DCT gearbox hasn't got any riding modes, just 3-stage traction control system, which can be turned off on the fly. It's a really easy system system to use. And then also ABS, which is disengageable at the rear if you fancy backing it in off-road. So I'm just trying to work out which traction control setting is suitable at the moment for the road, because the Africa Twin's got quite a sophisticated system where it's not just all based on wheel slip as to when the traction control system intervenes. It's done with torque and the amount that the bike will actually give to the rear wheel. So I'm on traction control setting 3 at the moment, which is the highest, and it's doing this weird thing where even on completely dry roads, it won't actually give me all the power. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Currently the only round-the-world bike is capable of doing some serious distance on the motorway whilst retaining that hardcore off-road potential are KTM's 690 Enduro R and the 1190 Adventure R. Problem is the 690's got a small tank, uncomfortable seat, no luggage options, and the 1190 costs over £13,000. So the Honda Africa Twin sits kind of right in between those two, and then it's got that motorway potential. It's got a comfortable seat, it'll do 61 miles per gallon, it's got luggage options, it's got that true off-road potential. And if you opt for the base model bike, it's £10,500. I think if you lined up a Triumph Tiger 800, a BMW GS 800, and then the Africa Twin, and got a load of people to ride all three, I reckon a lot of people would walk away with a Honda. Arguably, it's the best looking, it's got a great exhaust note, the components are just finished in that typical Honda quality, strong brakes, strong engine, and for a bike which is based on such an iconic machine, at 10.5 grand, dare I say it's affordable? Most people know that I'm an absolute turd at riding off-road, but I do fancy a go on this one with the DCT gearbox on some trails, because I think I'll just leave it in automatic, not have to worry about any of the faffing around with gears, and just concentrate on what's ahead of me. But as a road bike, it's actually quite an impressive town bike. There's a really good steering lock on it. The bars are tall enough to go over car mirrors, so it's actually not too bad at filtering. There's accessories on it like a 12-volt power charger, and it's got road presence too, with running lights in the indicators. This is definitely not our last encounter with the Africa Twin, but as far as dealing with icy road rides is concerned, this thing coped about as well as it could have. But we will be taking it off-road in the near future, testing the limits and seeing how far we can push it. And by we, I definitely don't mean me.